Dear students, I am your English tutor, Sri Monojoy Dey on the go. Today, I am going to discuss two of the most important modal auxiliaries. Dear students, auxiliaries are the helping verbs that help the action verbs to make tenses and passive forms. There are two types of auxiliaries, primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. Primary auxiliaries include examples like am, is, are, was, were, do, does, did, have, has, had, etc. Modal auxiliaries are also called modals. The examples of which are shall, should, will, would, can, could, may, might, must and ought to. But today I shall explain you two of the most important modal auxiliaries, that is can and could, their uses and differences with example. So let's begin. Dear students, we often get confused as to when we should use can and when could. Therefore, today I have come with the lesson of the important modal auxiliary, that is can as well as could. First, I will discuss with the uses and examples of can, and then I will focus on the uses and examples of could. So let's begin with can first. The first use of can is to indicate ability. Ability means the ability refers to here if a person is able to do something, that is ability. So to indicate ability, we use can. Like for example, as you can see on your screen, can you call back tomorrow? He couldn't answer the question. So these two examples indicate the ability of the person concerned. Second use is to ask permission to do something. When the situation arises when we have to ask permission from somebody, we can use can. For example, can I read your newspaper? Can I take you home? Okay, so the next example use is, it is used to ask somebody to help you. For example, can you help me with this box? Next example is, can you feed the cat, please? Now let's move on to the next use. Next use is can is used to express doubt or surprise. For example, can he be serious? Where can she have put it? What can they be doing? So these are the three examples which express doubt or surprise. Next use is can is used to say if something is possible or not possible. For example, can you call back tomorrow? I can't promise anything, but I will do what I can. So these two examples as well show that something is possible or not possible. So in case of these uses, in case of these circumstances, we use the modal auxiliary can. Now let's move on to some more uses of can with their examples. Next, can is also used in case somebody is allowed to do something. For example, you can take the car if you want. Second example is, we can't wear jeans at workplace. So these two examples show whether somebody is allowed to do something. Next use is, can is used to express doubt that something is not true. For example, that can't be Mary, she is in New York. Second example is, he can't have slept through all that noise. Now next use is, can is used to say the character traits, feature of somebody, something or some places. For example, he can be very tactless sometimes. It can be quite cold here in winter. So to show the characteristics of a particular place or to show the character traits of a particular person or a thing, we use can sometimes. Next is, we use can to make suggestions. For example, we can eat in a restaurant if you like. Second example is I can take the car if necessary. Now let's move on to the next use. Next is can be used with the verbs like feel, hear, see, smell, taste. For example, she can feel a lump on her forehead. The second example is I can hear music. Dear students, you might have noticed that can is used with these verbs specified on the usage column of your screen. For example, feel, hear, see, smell, and taste. With these verbs, we use can. So that's all about the use of can in different situations. Now let's move on to the uses and examples of could. Dear students, always remember that could is more formal and more polite than can. For example, the first use is could is used to ask if you can do something. And as I told you, it is more polite form of expression than can. For example, could I use your phone, please? Could we stop by next week? The two examples that you have seen on your screen show more politeness than can. Therefore, to show more politeness in our expression, in our speech, we often take recourse to the usage of could. We prefer using could to can in such circumstances. Second example usage is used to politely ask somebody to do something for you. For example, could you help me with my project today? The second example is, could you come with me to the market? So these two examples, as you have seen, are used to politely ask somebody to do something for you. The third usage is the modal auxiliary could is used to show that something is or might be possible. For example, I could do it now if you like. Don't worry, they could have just forgotten to call. The third example is you couldn't have left it on the bus, could you? The next use is could is used like can also to make suggestions. For example, we could write a letter to the director. The second example is you could always try his home number. So dear students, you might have seen the uses or the uses of can and could are almost similar, but we prefer to use could in more formal situation as well as to express ourselves more politely. So now let's recapitulate. Can and could and their uses. For example, as you can see on your screen, can we go home now? Could we go home now? Okay, could is more polite and formal than can, and it is they are used for asking permission. Second usage is request someone for something. You see, when it comes to can, it's can you take a message please, and when it comes to could, it is could you take a message please. So when we talk to our peers, our friends, we can use can, but when we talk to our elders or in more formal situation, we can make use of could in comparison to can. This is more polite and formal. Next, to show ability in the present and the past respectively. For example, I can lift a heavy box, and on the other hand, I could lift a or I couldn't drive until I was 35. So you can see, to show ability in the present and the past respectively, we can use can as well as could. Ability in the present we use can, and for ability in the past we use could. Now let's move on to the next use, that is it expresses possibility. To express possibility we can use can as well as we can use could, but there's a difference here which I'm going to explain to you now. See, if I say it can be his car, And on the other hand, I say it could be his car. You see, the degree of possibility is more in the case of can, and the degree of possibility is less in the form of could. For example, it can be his car. The possibility of this car being his is 70%. But if I say it could be his car, the possibility of the car being his is 40%. Okay, so when we use can to indicate possibility, that is more definite than could. Okay, now let's move on to the next use, that is can and could are used to make an offer. For example, I can do it for you if you like. On the other hand, with could, we can say I could give you a lift to the station. Okay, so to make an offer in the present tense, okay, we can use both the forms of modal auxiliaries here, can and could. So my dear students, that's all about the uses and differences of can and could. Hope you understood. Always remember, my dear students, when we use the expression in formal situation, as well as when we want to use ourselves or use our expressions more politely, we take recourse to the usage of could, okay, in comparison to can. But whenever we are interacting with our friends, with our peers, okay, we can take recourse to can as well. So can is used to less formally, okay, less politely than could. So that's all about the differences between can and could. Hope you have understood this presentation. Thank you. If you like my presentation, dear students, kindly share my video as well as subscribe it, and also don't forget to tap the like button. Thank you so very much for listening to me.